Nearly every business I encounter is speaking to the wrong part of the brain. One part is the human part. The other part is what I call the critter brain. You must understand your customer. You don't have a customer, you have a relationship. The way that we feel good about buying your business or buying from your business is when we notice you believe the same things I do. And this is a question that I always start with for all of my clients, because this is exactly the question you need to be asking yourself is,
hello and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. I'm Kurt Luidhardt, your host and a founder of the Prosper Group, who has helped raise over $500 million and help elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. Business owners, what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative and engaged audience of 76.5 million people that we call Liberty Spenders? These Americans spend $5 trillion a year, and they're motivated to buy from businesses that share their values. If you want to learn more about this, check us out and read our new best-selling book. You can get a free copy at libertyspenders.com/free. Today, we are excited to have Michael Liebowitz, founder and CEO of Magnetic Mind Studio. He's got 14 years of expertise in linguistics and behavioral neuroscience. Michael helps businesses craft messages that spark "I want that" reactions. And boy, do we all want that for our business. Helps boost sales by 2 to 5 times for his clients. His unique approach decodes how the mind drives decisions, empowering leaders to stand out. Michael, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks, Kurt. I'm really happy to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because I do think this is an important topic. There's just so much noise out there in the market. It doesn't matter what business you're in. There's somebody else who does it. And because we are an international community now, they don't even have to be in your neighborhood. They could be anywhere. And so every entrepreneur is trying to craft a message to pull in clients. But I thought we'd just start out. What's the biggest mistake that we're all making? Dispel me of the thing that's hurting me here.
The biggest mistake, and it's understandable why it's a big mistake, is that nearly every business I encounter is speaking to the wrong part of the brain. And so we're only a few seconds in, and already we're getting into the neuroscience nerdy stuff, but it is foundational to everything. So it makes sense we're going to begin here. Metaphorically, let's consider the brain as having 2 parts. One part is the human part. And that does a lot of the what we're going to call logic or rational, even though we all seen the TED Talk, that lets us know that should be in finger quotes, right?
Right.
But the other part is what I call the critter brain. And it does only 2 things. It does emotions and it does survival. And of course, given the choice between making a rational decision or a survival decision, well, we're going to choose the survival one every time. Because if we get a rational decision wrong, we're wrong.
Right.
If we get the survival decision wrong, guess what? We're not around to correct ourselves. And to this part of the brain, it doesn't know the difference between real and not real. So when it sees something as being a potential threat to survival, it actually thinks, this is the end. So what happens, what's the big mistake is a lot of business owners are speaking to the human brain because that's the one we're familiar with. That's the one that we are more consciously aware of. So we start speaking to that part of the brain. But the real decision is being made in the critter brain. And we don't explicitly speak to that part of the brain. And the majority of the work I do is unlocking the message that speaks to that part of the brain.
That's interesting. So I want to skip to a question because I think this might help illustrate this better, which is for some fun. If you could rewrite the messaging for a famous company that we all know to help illustrate this and attract more customers for them, which one would you pick? How would you change it?
Okay, so this is a real example. Several years ago, I was brought in to speak at Charles Schwab, which is one of those tiny companies no one's ever heard of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was brought in to speak to their marketing team, all about the neuroscience and the whatnot. And at that time, their tagline was a modern way to invest, which is absolutely terrible. Now, your message isn't just your tagline. Your message is pretty much anything that you put in front of your audience. But for the sake of fun, let's just talk about their tagline. So in the talk, I explicitly, but framed it differently, let them know this is a terrible tagline. Right. I folded it into an example of how people perceive language. And in that example, I said, imagine you saw a dating profile and it said, I'm a modern person. Would you know what they were talking about? And of course, I see the light turn on. People's like, yeah, I know where you're going with this. Right. And the reason why that's a bad tagline is because the word modern. No two people are going to have the same understanding of what that means. So therefore, it's meaningless. Right. It's not a way that people perceive themselves or the world around them. And now their new one is just as bad, but not as well. It's almost as bad, which is own your tomorrow. Oh my God, they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And I get where they're going, right? It's about investing for the future, about your financial health in the future, whether that's retirement or anything before retirement. But it's the word own that is making the huge misstep here. It's like you own things. You don't own a future, but even in a metaphor, think of owning your future. You know what? The future is inevitable. You're going to own it one way or the other. Right. So the word own is way too vague. If I were to change just their current one, I would say, use the word secure. Secure your tomorrow. Okay. Notice how that lands differently, right? Yes. You can step into a tomorrow that is secure, and you can step into a tomorrow that is not secure. And you can notice, critter brain, how they feel, and you can get a hit on, well, where am I surviving? Where do I want to survive? Right. Yeah. But you can't do that with own. What do you mean there? So that's how I would change that, is to say secure your tomorrow or something like that would be a much better switch.
I immediately felt something with secure, to your point, right? Yeah. Own, I did feel a little bit of like rah-rah, right? Like, I'm going to own this, this is mine, Right. But secure connected to that survival part of me, right? Like
exactly.
Maybe it's insecure right now, right?
Right.
And that freaks me out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. And so walk us through, maybe you can use Schwab as a bit of an example, but walk us through, if you were working with a client, how do you figure this out?
Okay. You were asking me before about what's the biggest mistake business owners make in their messaging. There's another big mistake that I think 99.9% of the entire marketing field is making. And that is when they say you have to understand your customer, which is 100% true. You must understand your customer. But here's the thing that most get wrong or don't perceive in the way that lets them find the right answer. And that is, you don't have a customer, you have a relationship, right? Now, if you're a business services provider, small business, you have a personal relationship. But if you have a large business, the business has a relationship. And guess what? You and or your business is in the relationship. You're part of that, what I'm going to call the system. Well, if you're part of it, guess what? You get to have a say in the relationship. And this is where things go south. They go do the customer research and they say, the customer is saying this, or they're getting 100 different answers and they're trying to do where's the biggest answer? Forgetting that they're in the system. I say you cannot understand your customer until you first understand yourself. And here is why. And this is probably going to lead into one of your other questions. But the way that we feel good about buying your business or buying from your business is when we notice you are, I'll skip to the end. You believe the same things I do. Now, I don't mean this as like a monumental belief. The beliefs in this case can be completely superficial. I once got a client's business growing 10% in 1 month just based on uncovering the belief in the business that it's fun to show off. Right?
Yes.
Talk about there's no revelation in that. There's no deep hidden truth, and that is just fun to show off. Leverage it. And so what that did for them is, well, now that we know that the core of this business is focused on the belief it's fun to show off. And by the way, they sold cooking gadgets, right? Now we know when we do our customer research, what we're trying to uncover, right? Since we know we're about showing off, we want to find out what our customer feels, believes, and the meanings they're attaching to showing off, not cooking. What this ended up doing was it turned into a entire public-facing campaign or frame, I should say, of would you like to be the star of the dinner party? And to anyone who holds that identity, and identities are another thing that we can get into, of I want to be the star of the dinner party. Why? Because I like to show off is the hidden subtext of that.
Right.
Sales took off. Not only that, it showed them entirely new places to market their product where their competition wasn't even touching. And because we know that this is an audience that wants to show off, because we like showing off, we can ask ourselves, well, where do people who want to show off, who have that sort of like, I like attention, what are they doing in the world? Where are they hanging out? And one of the things that came up in our brainstorm is someone said, this is making me think of someone who's getting some sort of elective, a nip and a tuck or a Botox or a thing like that, right? Nothing like truly changed, but the cosmetic stuff that you can just like go in and out in a day. And they did almost as a joke, because no one believed that anything would happen there. We kind of had a good laugh about it. But the VP of marketing then did sort of a test campaign leveraging Facebook, finding all the buttons, the radio buttons you can click that would relate to someone doing that thing. I don't know what Facebook shows them, but click, 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 click. They do an ad for that audience that sort of dials up on sort of the showing off element of the brand. Lo and behold, they had a huge market there. They would never have known that. Selling cooking gadgets to people who have a history of talking about or engaging with Botox, let's say. Why? Because they were able to, with my help, instill in that audience the idea of showing up to a dinner party or hosting one where people are eating the food they cook and saying, oh my God, I can't believe this. You did this. It totally reinforces what they really want. And of course, our cooking gadgets are how you get there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the kind of connective tissue there.
Yes.
Right. Which is not intuitive.
No.
And, the typical, to your point, the other side of the brain, I would be saying, well, this cooking gadget has this following feature, which is better than the other cooking gadget you can get, or it's nonstick, or it's not, versus what you're talking about. I like the thought behind that. If you're listening to this show, it's probably because you understand something most people don't. Marketing to Liberty Spenders isn't just about ads or tactics, it's about trust. And in the real world, trust moves through relationships. And that's why private introductions and deal flow are such a core part of what we do.
So FastPass is a private introduction and deal flow network for Christian and conservative leaders who already have influence and want to scale fast. It's not open networking, it's intentional introductions between people who already share alignment. We've seen one client land a $25,000 opportunity from a single introduction. Another told us that FastPass has become his largest source of referrals, not because of volume, but because of fit. And yet another closed her equity round at a key moment just due to the right introduction.
When you book a one-to-one consult with us, we're not handing you a list or making big promises. Instead, we're having a real conversation about what you're building, who you want to meet, and whether FastPass makes sense for this season for you. So no pressure, no hustle, and no awkward pitch from us.
Yeah. If you're ready to grow through relationships instead of forcing everything on your own, head to libertyspenders.com/FastPass and book a one-to-one consult with us.
In worst case, you leave with clarity. Best case, the right introductions change the trajectory of what you're building.
Okay, back to the episode.
To some extent, what you're talking about too is insights that I think help small businesses on tight budgets, right? I mean, I'm not saying you're giving your insights away, but once we once we have those insights, right? That subtle thing of, hey, we could run some Facebook ads targeted at this audience and nobody else is doing. There wasn't anything terribly expensive about that kind of insight.
I think they spent a couple $100 on the test, and then once it worked, just double down, triple down.
Yeah, yeah.
10x down, whatever, right? On a $300 spend for testing. Oh my gosh, bargain.
Yeah. Well, now maybe this one's a little off base, but I loved this as I was thinking about this question. So you've got to convince a penguin to buy ice.
Okay.
How would you craft a message to win their trust and close the deal?
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm going to walk you through the strategy because I think that's going to be more informative than others. Okay, so penguins, they're surrounded by ice. What this tells me is the ice to our penguin is a commodity. So when you have a commodity, you have to slice the pie really thin. Okay. So back to what I said before, like to understand your audience, your customer, you have to first understand yourself. So I'm going to cast myself as a penguin. What I want out of ice, I like to enjoy myself. I like to have fun. So I like ice that's slippery. Okay. I like slippery ice.
Yes.
Okay. So what do I get? And this is a question that I always start with for all of my clients. And I'm happy to deliver it to your audience because this is exactly the question you need to be asking yourself is, what is important to you about, and then you fill in the context of your business. So for this example, here I am a penguin. I have to ask myself, what's important to me about sliding around on ice? Okay, now I'm going to make something up. I'm obviously not a penguin, nor do I slide around on ice on a daily basis. You know what? What comes to me is having fun with my family, right? On the ice, sliding around and having a good time with my little penguin family. Okay. What that tells me is I need to go do some research with my other penguin families, not the single ones, the ones who have families, and ask them, hey, tell me about spending time with your family. What do you want? What does it mean to you? Getting all that stuff, right? I'm not talking about ice anymore, right? Notice how the frame has shifted. And I'll just tell you, like, one of the things I believe is no one is in the business they think they're in, ever. And in this case, this penguin is not in the selling of ice business. Now that we know what the core belief is, they're in the have fun with your family business. Okay. So what do? Now, what comes up right now is I have two choices. Since I know I'm in the have fun with your family business, I can sell blocks of ice for that DIYer penguin who can then make their own slippy slide ice, right? Mm-hmm. So this is how you sell ice. It's not about the ice. It's about what you can do with the ice in this case.
Yeah.
Or, and so that's a one-off sale. I sell one and I have to sell a whole bunch. Or, now I'm thinking, what if instead of selling ice, I sell access to the ice? What if I create a ice sliding park and sell tickets? So at the end of the day, I get repeat business, right?
Right.
Now let's take it even further. This is exactly I'm so glad you asked this question. This is exactly how my brain works and how everyone should think about their business. All right. So it's successful. Fantastic. Guess what? Someone sees you're successful. They say, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing, but a little bit different, right? People think differentiation is differentiation. It's not. I can go into that later too, if you want. So they say, you know what? I want to have an ice park, but those ice rides are they're not steep enough. You don't go fast enough. So I'm going to create an ice park where you go really, really fast. Totally legit. You know what? That's an entirely different belief system. That person wants fast thrills. My park is about family fun. We can both coexist. And if we're marketing well, we have a line of business out the door in the same penguin community.
Right.
But here's the mistake a lot of penguin business owners would make is they see that park getting business like, they think that's competition. It's not, but they think they're taking customers away that could have been over here. So I'm going to put in some fast ice as well. Wrong move. Because it doesn't align with the core belief of the business. And that dilutes how people perceive the business. And this is how a lot of businesses who start to expand their offering begin to fail, because they're not tied to a strategy. They're just reactive. If my family fun on the ice business is to expand, I can have a thrill ride, but I have to connect it back to the core of the business, of the brand, of the message, which is, in what ways does a fast ride relate to family fun? And if I can't make the connection, you don't invest in the product. Instead, I can ask, in what ways can I expand the joy of the family at my park? Maybe it doesn't have to be anything to do with ice, but now I'm creating an ever more attractive place for penguin families to come and spend time. This is Disneyland. This is what Disneyland did, right? They're not adding thrill rides. They're adding, where they could, right? When you go on their quote unquote thrill rides like Space Mountain, Matterhorn, they're very tame by roller coaster standards. Very tame. They barely move, in fact. But they're not adding loops and such like that because it doesn't align with a mom and a dad with a 5-year-old or teenagers or not even teenagers, maybe not, but like that 12-year-old, right?
Right.
It has to work for that context. So what do?
Yeah.
They purchase Star Wars.
Yes.
Right. That's the investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love it. And I think it's such a good illustration. And I know I'm doing a great interview when I'm writing notes while I'm
Thank you for saying
talking.
that.
Yes.
Can I just say anecdotally? I do a lot of public speaking, and I host a monthly workshop. And the best compliment I get is when someone says, Michael, I took 3 pages of notes.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you talk about building trust fast as well.
Yes.
Right. And, let's go back to the brain side of it. So what's a surprising way our brains decide to trust a business enough to become a client?
There's only one way our brains decide to trust each other. And that is when we notice we are with like kind, people who are like ourselves. Before, when I mentioned the critter brain operates on emotions and survival, but the most important part of that duo is the survival. Well, one of the primary ways that this part of our brain is wired up to survive is to make sure we surround ourselves with people who are like ourselves. This part of the brain has no access to language, or it just does emotion and survival. That's it. But if it did have language, it would sound something like this. I don't want me to die. Therefore, people like me probably don't want me to die either. I'll hang out with them. Okay. And of course, when I'm with someone who is like kind or a group of people, that's where the emotion takes over. And of course, the emotion that we're talking about is I'm safe here. Right. And all that goes through the chemical process in the brain, gets picked up by the human brain, and the human brain, all it does, this is why people are speaking to the wrong part of the brain. All the human brain does is just interpret those signals that the critter brain already gave it and wraps a story around it to justify the whole thing. Right. So, and then takes credit for the whole decision.
Right.
So the fastest way to get to trust is to signal that very explicitly, I'm like you and you are like me. And the way that happens the fastest is this part of the brain just wants to know one thing. Do we share the same beliefs? And you've heard me talk about beliefs before. If you are clear about the belief that is underpinning your business, as long as that belief doesn't violate the conditions of survival for your audience, you are now considered trustworthy instantly. They say trust is built up over time. I mean, if you want to do it the slow way, sure. Right? Anything can be built up over time if you want to go slow enough. But trust is actually really quick to engage, but it's all based on beliefs. Now, why does it take so long the other ways? Or why do they say that, hey, they have to have 6 touch points before they'll buy from you, which is a function of trust? Well, by the sixth touch point, their critter brain realizes, you know what? I haven't died yet, so you must be safe to be around.
Right.
That's all that's happening, right? Neurologically. So why wait for 6 of them to give that signal? Let's get it down to 3. Let's get it down to 1, right? By explicitly being clear about what's the belief that's underpinning this whole thing. Now, the artistry and where I come in is not only just uncovering that belief system, but how to artfully express it in a way that is right for the business, the way that your customer wants to hear it, and such like that. There's all a bunch of nuance there. But just tell people what you believe to be true in the context of your business, right? Not life in general. Like, no one cares if you like long moonlit walks on the beach, right? When you're selling insurance, like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But
well, it's an interesting concept. I was taught in sales training something similar, which is people make decisions emotionally, justify them intellectually.
Yeah, this is,
And I will think about my decision making. So I will, I might talk to a coach or consultant and think this person is brilliant and I think they can help me. Right. And then I move into maybe it's the transfer to the human brain side. I'm thinking, well, can I afford $15,000?
Exactly.
Right? Will my staff want to work with this person? Are they going to be upset with me for bringing in yet another consultant to talk to them about how to market their company?
Yeah.
Is this the right time? Maybe there's some other priority. And so if we're, what is there okay, we got to touch them emotionally, but now we also have to deal with this other stuff.
Logistics.
Yeah.
So that emotional yes is the first most important yes you're going to get. Nothing else happens until you get that yes. It's the gatekeeper. In fact, in the workshop I was mentioning, or in my talks, I call it a gatekeeper step. There's no way to make a decision about anything before the critter brain says safe or not safe. So they say safe. Like, you got the emotional part set. Well, the rest is logistics. Everything you said is literally logistics, right? Like, can I afford it? What's the timing, right? Will other people accept it? So how do you get through that whole thing? Well, when you're a business owner and you know the common objections or friction points, I wouldn't even call them objections, they're like friction, to a yes, I always recommend bringing it up first. I say never, if you can possibly help it, do not answer objections. You pre-frame or you proactively bring up the objection. Because here's what happens neurologically with an objection. If someone has an objection and they say it out loud, right? The out loud part is really key. What happens is, because when we say something out loud, we're committed to it. Right? We said it publicly. Yes. Now I have to have alignment with what I just told you.
Yes.
What happens in the metaphor I use is their brain takes a trip to Objection Island, right?
Right.
And once they're there, you know what? Objection Island feels pretty good, right? It's sunny. I'm laying on the beach. Someone's bringing me drinks in a coconut. It's pretty good over here on Objection Island. I don't have to move.
Right.
And it takes you, the business owner, a lot of energy to buy them and get them motivated to take a return trip to where you are. So it's best not to have them go to Objection Island in the first place. And there's 2 ways to do that. Number 1 is you can ask the question, right? They say yes, you're on board with the belief alignment, that emotional yes. And then you can ask, if you're asking the question, in the case you just said, like, do you have any thoughts about your staff being on board with this?
Right.
You know what? I do. Now, because you didn't go there first, I was the one who asked the question. You didn't go to Objection Island. We're just having a conversation about a potential friction point. Right? So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, and this is more useful, that's useful for a sales conversation, is to ask, obviously. But if you're marketing, you're also facing friction. And the best way to do it in your marketing is to incorporate in your communication what I call objection pre-framing. Trust me, everything is about framing. When you pre-frame something, you don't actually bring up the objection. But what if this? Well, let me answer that in this piece of communication. No, you fold it into the communication, and it can sound something like this. And I'm making this up as I go along. But let's say you have a staff, and given your example, another consultant comes in, and in the marketing, you have maybe a case study. And I'm going to make sure that this case study includes that objection or the situation, and then pre-frames it, where I can say, and of course I'm going to want to pick an example that's real, because you want to be honest with your audience, is to make sure that this is included in the case study of the client was skeptical that their staff would be on board. Turns out X, and then you X, Y, and Z. Like, what do you want to say to these people? Is what I uncover this stuff with my clients. I go, well, what do you want to say about this objection? Well, I want to say this, and then I interview their clients and such like that. I'm like, well, what happened? So I find the story in there, but you include that story, and it pre-frames the whole thing for the person reading it, who might have thought, I have a staff too. Oh, this reframing, they don't say that out loud, makes sense to me. Objection, pre-framed, obliterated.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. You know, as we talk, I am now imagining scenarios and thinking about myself. One of the common sales strategies, particularly in a one-on-one environment, that I experience when somebody might be prospecting me, without a, I have an immense respect for him, but we'll call it the Dan Sullivan question, or the Dan Sullivan approach. So you're in a one-on-one, and they're going to ask, what's not working, what's it costing you, what's it look, what would look great in a year, and how would your life be better? Yeah. And I see it coming, of course, because I've read the book. Sure. But it feels to me, when I experience that, like I'm being brought into sort of a verbal trap, in a sense, because I know that I'm going to say, my life would be a lot better if you helped me make $1 million more, and I'd be happier. And then it comes to if I could do that for you, would you? Yeah. Of course you'd hire me. And then I feel like, well, I got to be consistent, to your point earlier, with what I said. And then it generates this resistance, almost like the survival resistance you're talking about. Where I don't feel safe. I feel trapped by it. And so, wondering now that I've heard you explain it, if that's what's happening. I've never quite understood it. It's just like,
it is exactly what's happening. Yeah. Yeah. That methodology violates your conditions for survival and safety. We human beings are meaning-making machines. We have an experience of life in any form whatsoever. We attach a meaning to it. And what you were doing there is the meaning you were attaching to that experience was, I am being manipulated. Right. And that was it. That was the meaning that got attached to that experience, and that's what the experience is. Yeah. All communication happens on this side of the listener. Right. Right. And if you understood how communication actually works, like the steps it goes through, it's amazing we communicate at all. Yeah. But there is a layer of that system that is aligned across the board. And that's where I get my clients communicating. And now that I brought that up, I'll just give you the crib notes of it. Okay. Yeah. So it first starts with, I have an idea of what I want to say. Yep. Now this all happens in a split second, but I'm breaking it down as if we turned it really slow. Right? Yeah, I have an idea of what I want to say. Now we think we turn that into language or something written. No, we don't. The first thing that happens is it gets filtered by our belief system, right? What's important to us? What are the things that matter about this to say? Because there's an entire universe of language we can use. So we have to have a filter that tells us which language, what words to put together. So it gets filtered through our belief system, which then in turn gets filtered through the meanings we attach to that. Only then do we use that to select the words, the language we're going to use to communicate it. Now, to us, it makes perfect sense. But all communication includes distortion, deletion, and generalization. And we included all three in that. But the reverse happens on the listener side. That's the input. It gets filtered through their beliefs and the meanings they attach to that. And only then do they come up with the bottom of, this is what I heard. Right? This is what you wanted to say. This is what I heard. So when you align things on that belief and meaning layer, it eliminates, once you get aligned there, it eliminates all the game of telephone that makes everything go haywire.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like writing as fast as
totally.
I can while you're talking.
I'm used to it. I've learned when to pause and let people write.
Yeah. I see that in our everyday communications. We have an amazing team of leaders at our business. And I was remarking to our COO last week that I feel like every conversation or topic should start with, I'm going to share my thing, but I'm going to give you a definition of what I mean.
100%.
By
Smart.
I'm saying, I think we should, I'm trying to think of a good example, but I think we should focus on revenue generating, items, which seems like a very understandable, clear communication sort of thing.
Yes.
But then I noticed that the other people on the team hear revenue generating items differently, right? And I mean sales.
Yep.
They mean, well, we generate revenue by servicing our clients well. Right. So they think customer service.
Yep.
And somehow what probably was a 5-minute conversation turns into a 50-minute conversation. Because we're going, it's like the marriage thing too. It often, I don't know if you're married. My wife and I, we've been married 21 years. And how many times have we had an argument about something we don't really disagree on because we're not, it's a belief perhaps in your example or a definition of terms or how we hear something. And you get done and I think I have lost an hour of my life and I fought with the woman I love, not because she thinks black and I think white, but because we're both, we just can't communicate, in a way that both of us are understanding the terms,
Yeah. I follow up with my clients at like the 6-month mark and then the year mark just to see how things are going. How can I right the course of their ship? About a month and a half ago, I reconnected with a client after having worked with them. That was a year ago. And I was gratified to hear he does outbound sales, basically cold calls.
Yes.
Which is why he hired me. He's like, I'm getting lumped in with all the sleazy people.
Right.
How do I make sure my clients understand I'm not that? Well, when he hired me, he had just hired he had 5 employees doing sales calls. That's how much business he had. He had enough to support 5 people. And he was struggling to grow it beyond that. Well, a year later, he's got 36. Okay. That's how much he's grown.
Wow.
And I said, can I take some of the credit for that? He goes, Michael, you can take most of the credit for that. But he said, more than that, Michael, you've probably saved me, I'm going to estimate about 2 months of my time. Because those first 5, the experience there was onboarding took so long. I'd explain to them what this business is about, how we operate, what we do, and I'd have to have 3-5 corrective meetings. But with the framing and the language you gave me that is so clear of how to communicate what this business is all about and the expectations and how we operate, it's done in the first meeting. Done, right? In the first 1 hour onboarding meeting, everyone goes like, I understand completely. I'm good to go. And there's never been a need for a follow-up, right? Times that by every employee that's here and the ones that have come and gone. Some people are just like short-term. They don't work out, but still it saved him time in onboarding. He said, you've probably saved me the equivalent. And he's exaggerating. I know it's not 2 months worth of time, but it represents a lot of hours of his time as the CEO communicating downward and not having the game of telephone happen.
Yeah. Well, I know that's, I'm sure all of us listening have experienced that, and the frustration when you think, I thought I communicated that in a way that everybody understood, right? Yeah. And where it was simple and clear, but it's not getting through. And I like that thought of how, things are getting filtered through other people's belief systems and other people's experiences as well. So I wrote down all communications are filtered through clients' beliefs, but also you said something about all communication is in the other person's mind. Is that how you said it? Was it? Yeah.
All communication happens on the side of the listener.
Yes.
Or the receiver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to you before the show about, okay, we're going to try to do 45 minutes, and I just totally lost track of time because we're at 40, because this has been great. I want to, before we transition to our kind of lightning round that we do, I want to talk about how you work with people, though.
Yeah. Thank you.
You had told us when we very first met, you run workshops. So how does that, if somebody says, oh, this guy sounds brilliant, how do I work with him? Is that how you do it? You do workshops with people? How does that work?
So the workshop you'll find on my website is an introductory workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop. You'll learn all about the neuroscience, how to construct a message that's going to be massively effective. And then I work with everyone in the room on their message. You come out with a better message than you had coming in. I should say a better understanding of your message. We don't always nail your exact message, but that's more of an introductory sort of thing. The way I work with a client who hires me is it's a program. It lasts about 2 months, and we work the system, and the system works really well. It includes a series of 5 highly interactive sessions with the entire team, whether that's a team of 1 or a team of 11, right, of senior leadership. In every case, I need the CEO in the room. No exceptions, which is why I typically work with low end of mid-market and SMB, because when you get above that stage, the CEO tends to not want to be in the room anymore.
Right.
Like, oh, I can't help you then. And so in those sessions, we're working on what is your core message really, i.e. what business are you really in? We work on what I call belonging traits. Oh my God, there's hardly anything more powerful than understanding the belonging traits of your business that are going to attract people nearly instantly. And then we work on how to frame your offer in a way that those people want to say yes to.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take 2 months though. Then I put it all together into a guidebook that is kind of the source code for all communication in every aspect of your business. And if I used to do this, I used to just like, hey, that's my final deliverable. Thank you so much. And then it would sit on a shelf. They wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm like, okay, that's a fail point on my side.
Right.
So now part 3 is we find what's the highest lever piece of communication in your business, i.e. where are your people falling off the pipeline? Is it in the beginning, in the middle, in the end? Where's things going south? Let's work on the communication piece there. And so I work with my clients. This is all included in the package. I work with the client on that piece. And when I'm doing that, I'm showing them or their marketing team how to use the guidebook on their own. Now, some clients hire me after that. Like, no, we want you as our director of communication. I'm like, sure. We work out a fractional thing. And I call it at that point, I become the defense attorney for how they talk about their business. Right. But that's how the program works. And honestly, I say it operates around 2 months. Well, the time frame is flexible because that last piece, I don't know how long it's going to last. Right. It depends on what we work on. But also, my commitment is I don't stop. We don't stop until we've nailed it. Right. I say the first part is 5 meetings. That's the average. I've had people get through it in 4 because they've done kind of the work in a way before. And so they're ready to move. I've had companies that take 7, 8 meetings. Just the way it worked out. I don't care, but we don't stop until we nail it. right?
Right.
And when it takes longer, it's usually longer, not because like we're doing something wrong. It's because I work with the neurology that shows up. Mm-hmm. And some people just need to go, they take longer to find it. Okay, fine with me. I work with you.
I love that approach. And I'm excited about, hopefully many people will find you through being on our show and want to reach out on it. And we'll give you, anybody listening, we'll put in the notes how to contact them, and we're going to talk about it at the end. But before we do, we always do our rapid fire lightning round. This is not a very hard and fast rule, but we like 90 seconds.
Okay.
Each question. You're a linguistic expert, so maybe you'll kill it here. So I like to ask this way. It's 50 years in the future, mm-hmm. and you're lying in your bed, you're looking back on your life. How do you know that you've had a life well lived?
Ooh, great question. A life well lived in general, I would count how many people I've helped, to tell you the truth. In any way possible, it is always my joy to help someone work through something they're dealing with. I don't give people answers. I ask really good questions and we find the answer. And I would literally just go in my mental Rolodex. How many people have I helped? And that's how I know I had a fulfilling life.
I like it. Now for something completely different. 90 seconds on something that's got you going down the rabbit hole recently. Maybe it's a hobby, book you're obsessed about. Yeah. Maybe you're into some kind of trading card game. I don't know. What's got you obsessed lately?
I am obsessed, and I guess this kind of relates to the neuroscience nerd in me, but I am obsessed with how AI is going to impact society. Mm-hmm. People are talking about like tasks and AI. Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed with how it's going to impact societies. And I've done a lot of writing about this, but I think we're in a revolution with AI, mm-hmm. or potential one anyway, much like the Industrial Revolution which was the last global societal level one. But the Industrial Revolution had about 50, 70 years to integrate. Plenty mm-hmm. of time for people to adapt. The way that AI is going, we're going to have maybe 10 years, mm-hmm. which is not enough time for people to adapt. Something's going to break. But I don't know what. And I'm just endlessly curious of like, okay, how do we prepare for that? What's most likely mm-hmm. to break? And break is a metaphor for something right. like not being too smooth. I'm looking out there. I'm seeing how people talk about their world and doing my best to decipher what is the most likely way that we human beings are going to integrate into a future with this new revolutionary capability that we have. I find it endlessly fascinating.
It is. And I tell you, everybody I talk to has a slightly different perspective on it.
Yeah.
Everywhere from the apocalypse is coming, make sure you have a farmhouse and some guns somewhere.
It's not, but okay.
Yeah. The whole world is going to be a better place. And there's probably some truth somewhere in between. Right?
Yes.
Well, with that in mind, now we have 90 seconds. This is an opportunity for gratuitous promotion for your Magnetic Mind Studio. Do 90 seconds on who's looking for you, who should be finding you, what do you do for them, how do they find you, where to find you.
So who's looking for me? I'll tell you who my favorite kind of client is, and that is what I call they're working on something new. Mm-hmm. It's an established business that is making a pivot. It's an established business that is introducing a new product or thinking about expanding their services. But also it's startups. And I don't just mean tech. I mean, you're starting a new business, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of my clients are like people doing their second business, second, third, right?
Right.
They sold the first one. I want to do something new. So I love that space. Although I will also take on the challenge of someone doing a regular business the regular way. But I find that differentiating in that space is really a fun challenge. The latest example of that was a client that does wealth management.
Yes.
And before that, it was someone selling insurance. Mm-hmm. The insurance one, that's a great story. We knocked it out of the park on that one. Now, one of my core beliefs underpinning my business is that, and it's very superficial, but in science-based, like there is a specific way our neurology is set up to let us say yes to something.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, you have a choice. Follow the neurology and take the easiest path to yes, or jump on the struggle bus.
Yeah.
Both are available to you, right?
Right.
But choose. My job, my mission is to let as many people as I can know that the struggle bus, which most people think is just the way it is not the way it is. There is another choice. And in that workshop, I'm literally giving away the keys to the kingdom. You can DIY it after that workshop. But a lot of people just don't want to do that, and then they hire me. I love entrepreneurship. I love the person who's like sets out there to say, like, I'm going to do my own thing and take the risk and just charge ahead. I just love that person. I so want them to succeed.
Yes.
And I want to give them the tools to do that in my realm, and all the stuff that no one knows they should be doing. A friend of mine calls it pre-marketing.
Yeah.
That I want them to succeed. And I know in my bones, this is essential to success.
Yeah.
Those are my people.
Yes. That is great. And so I hope that we have a lot of those types listening. And if you are, you can get in touch with Michael at www.mindmagnetizer.com. Is there another place they can hit you up? Are you on Instagram? What's a good
The only
place?
social media I'm on is LinkedIn. I'm pretty active over there. So you'll find me there. You'll see I think there are other Michael Liebowitzes there, but you'll recognize me, obviously the bald head, but I have a picture of me in front of like this faux chalkboard with a bunch of chalk drawings of light bulbs coming on. So you find that picture, you found me. But I'm pretty active over there. Feel free to DM me. If you want to go to the website and just register for the workshop, I do them every month. Just sign up for one. I'd love to meet you at the workshop. You're going to get so much out of it.
Yeah.
I am open to, also from the website, you can literally just book a call with me.
Yeah.
And these are not sales calls, by the way.
Right.
These are, let's get to know each other. Tell me about what's going on in your business. I will definitely set you on the right path in this call. Mm-hmm. I'm not expecting a sale. What I'm expecting, though, is a good relationship.
Yeah.
Some of them lead to sales. Some of them lead to referrals. Some of them may go nowhere. I just helped someone. Again, how many people have I helped?
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, this has been great. I like we said earlier, I did quite. It's a small notebook, but I've got 2.5 pages of notes here while we're on the show.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I think that's a win for both of us. And so thank you so much for being on. And for those of you,
this has been an absolute joy, Kurt. Thank you for having me on.
Well, awesome. It's been great for me too. For those of you who are tuning in, we absolutely appreciate you more than you can imagine. Check us out at our YouTube channel where you can get this. You can also see us on Apple and Spotify. Give us a good rating, like, and subscribe. And if you want to join our Liberty Business Alliance community, you can check us out at libertyspenders.com. And you can also grab a free copy of our new book at libertyspenders.com/free. And until next time,